So on this week's episode of Be More Super, the podcast, we've got a great guest starring in Tyler Perry's latest movie on Netflix, A Jazzman Blues. It's Lauren Buglioli. Lauren, welcome to the show, my love.
Thank you for having me, Brian. It's wonderful to virtually meet you.
And it's a pleasure, and I'm so glad you made time, because you're a busy lady indeed. Looking from your IMDb, you've got loads coming out. I'm surprised you have time to walk your gorgeous dogs and live life to the fullest. Which we're going to talk about your dogs in a bit, because I'm an animal lover, and the interview wouldn't be the same without giving them a mention. But before we chat about your awesome career and this amazing movie on Netflix, these last 2 years have been quite dramatic, to say the least, and we've gone through a lot as a world, not just personally or country by country. The whole world has experienced the pandemic. How have you kept positive and moving forwards, as a working actor and a person within this world?
Oh, we're starting off with a light question. I love it. I'm not a huge surface level person, so I knew you and I were going to be friends. This is great. I think perspective's everything in life, right? So I was lucky enough to be raised by a family that taught me to take things and not have toxic positivity, but rather say, like, what am I learning here? How can I grow from this? And not acknowledge, discount the fact that things can be painful and you don't necessarily want to be dealt certain cards, but to say, okay, who am I going to be in the face of this? So I feel like we were all given that challenge over the last couple years. And I think, it's looking at everything we've been through and saying, okay, who do I want to be, and who's being inspired by how I'm showing up in the face of this that I might not even know, just by, my energy and my attitude towards it. So, I had to take a couple deep breaths there, because, it's a roller coaster. But such is life, right? And I was very lucky the last couple of years, to have my loved ones surrounding me, and dogs, as we brought up already. Dogs help. But I think saying, okay, I know that we're going to come out the other side of this. What do I have to learn here, and how can I be there for others and be of service?
And I always look at something, if something bad happens, it's an opportunity for us to grow. It's an opportunity for us to learn that biggest lesson. And the biggest lesson for me out of the pandemic was to appreciate things a lot more, to look around us and weigh up what's actually important, because, life is so precious. The world is so precious. And it was so lovely to see scenes like in, I think it was Vienna. No, it was Venice, where the water was blue. And it just and it just highlighted what we as people are doing to the world and to each other. But I'm glad to say that in the UK, I mean, I'm not sure what it's like where you are, but in the UK, I think we've definitely turned a corner, and everything's going peachy, which is great, which is fantastic. But let's talk about, because you started quite young in the industry, so being an actor, being a performer, is probably one of the most competitive industries to be in. So why acting, and what actually sparked that journey for you into the world of acting?
I will be very honest. I'm feeling very honest today. So when I first started, I was in diapers, and it's very hard to let the weight of the world affect you at that age. You're just in it and you're playing pretend, and it's a joy, right? And my mom's wonderful. She always said, if you're not having fun, we won't do this anymore. And I continued to love it. I was very lucky in middle and high school. I lived in the UK, and I was able to work over there. And it was still, I was still in school, still kind of in a bubble. And then the bubble burst when I moved to America for college, because you kind of realize the gravity of the competition, all of the things that people very readily will tell you, that it's the toughest business there is, and all of that. So I had to do a lot of work around my mindset to say, okay, it's never about a given audition. It's never about a given role. It's saying, what is this moment, this opportunity conditioning me for that I can't see yet? And and really practicing being present and showing up with joy and enjoying the process rather than saying, I need this to validate me or to be happy or to be successful. And that mindset shift, it wasn't the easiest journey. It took a good amount of time to get there. It's constantly reconditioning myself to say, be present. What are you learning here? How can you show up and enjoy yourself and not be so hard on yourself? And then it doesn't feel like rejection. It feels like walking through the doors that are meant for you rather than banging on all of them.
I mean, when you started out and you decided, actually, this is the path for me, did you have a plan in place of what you wanted to achieve, people you wanted to work with and the type of work that you did in the way of, say, theatre, film or TV?
I did have a big plan when I moved to New York at 18, and then God really, really laughed. So really too hard, I think. I have a degree in early childhood education and special education. And I ended up teaching for a good period of time when I was in New York, and then doing acting and my education on the side, training in theater and film and television for the love of it, and had to do some of that mindset work that I mentioned and gain that perspective as a teacher and kind of become a more fully rounded, more dynamic human, not just kind of laser focus. And I think when I let go of that white knuckle grip, I started to see things fall into place and look back and connect the dots. And I have a bucket list of people that is a scroll's worth long that I would like to work with. But I think rather than saying that is the place I need to be, or, Broadway or bust, for example, right? If it's that or nothing, then I'm chasing that proverbial carrot for the rest of my life, rather than saying this or something better, So I think it's just having this kind of unshakable faith that is often tested. But like you said, it makes us stronger, and growth is uncomfortable. But when you get to the kind of next echelon and you look back, it all makes sense, right? You start to connect those dots and say, oh, that's why that was so challenging, because it prepared me for this next thing.
I mean, we often see actors on our screens and we often think, it must be an easy job. But there's a lot of training involved. There's a lot of time and commitment and sacrifices. I mean, you spent quite a bit of time in the UK, and then you went on to study at LAMDA, which is an amazing place, and the Central School of Speech and Drama. I mean, how was that experience for you, coming from the States over to London? Did it feel like you were on the set of Harry Potter? Was it because a lot of Americans go, it's like Harry Potter everywhere. It's fantastic. I mean, what was that experience, and what actually made you come over to the UK?
That is hilarious. So Harry Potter hadn't been released yet, so I didn't make that connection. But in sixth grade, my dad was transferred over there for work, and I started attending the American school in London. We were supposed to be there for 6 months. That first 6 months, my mom cried. She missed Walmart in her Suburban, and she's like, I want to go back to the States. And then we all fell in love with it. And 6 months turned into 8 years. So I was very lucky to be over there. It was a dream. I mean, I was at a very intense school in the States that was talking about SATs in the 6th grade. And then I got to the American school in London, and they saw my passion for horseback riding and acting. And they said, you know what? You're getting your work done outside of school. You need to go to set for 2 weeks. Go. You need to go do that horseback riding competition. Go. Like, they really fostered the love I had for these other passions outside of school, as long as I did my homework. And I think that experience, and then I went to Sylvia Young Theater School on the weekends, and LAMDA and Central School of Speech and Drama. I had a mentor over there, both Buck Heron and my mentor, Tara Pietri, who is at Apple now. And they encouraged me to go on auditions. They encouraged me to do theater in the UK. And that was a dream. It was just definitely very idyllic. And I was very lucky to be there. So I never take that for granted.
But the question is, did you find out how to make a good cup of tea? Because for some reason, I've got a lot of friends in the States, and every time I've gone over, literally they try their best to make me a cup of tea, and it's never the same. I mean, did your mum? Yeah.
Next time I come to London, I got to meet your wife and daughters and meet you, and I'll make a cup of tea, and we'll see how good an actor you are to pretend it's good.
Excellent. We'll mark
I'll say
that
that.
in.
I'm a
Yeah.
coffee gal.
To be honest, I'm a coffee person. Black, no milk, just straight up is my favourite.
Do
But
that.
yeah, but tea,
I can.
yeah. So obviously, I mean, when starting out as well, who inspired you? Who were the actors that you looked up to that you thought, do you know what? One day I want to be as good as that, or I
Mm,
want to, act opposite.
mm. I always loved Ethan Hawke,
Mm,
Reese Witherspoon, and then fell in love with Viola Davis. Um, and I think now the beautiful thing in this space we're in, because people often ask, there's so much content, but you see so much talent.
mm,
And so I have these, a bucket list of people that I'd love to work with, but I'm constantly inspired by new talent, and then also love to continue going to the theater. I'm a big fan of supporting local theater and supporting theater. So I think, I'm in class because I'm a big class nerd, and my teacher Jeremy O'Keefe yesterday said you have to remember that there are so many talented people in this business, and they are all
mm.
over, and they are doing theater, and they're everywhere. So it's just, I think I'm really inspired by artists, people who say, I love this thing, and the world tells me it's the toughest thing in the world, but I'm going to go with it and pursue it with all my heart. I just, I admire that.
And I feel that more people need to go to the theatre because I think it's a dying art because I feel that the pandemic has really destroyed quite a bit of it. But I've got a few friends that work in the theatre in the West End, and it's so nice that the West End opened a while ago, and everything's back to normal. But there's nothing like watching a good play. It's the art of word. Simplicity is key. I had a guest on recently, Matt Doherty, that was in the
Oh
Mighty
yeah,
Ducks, and
that's
he's
amazing.
he's just wrote a play called Brothers Play, and
Oh,
he sent me a video of it, and it's just stunning. It really is.
oh.
It's made me miss sitting down and actually appreciating the word on paper and being
Hmm.
performed on screen. So you've actually performed alongside, and you've shared the screen with quite a few very well-known established actors like yourself. So what I wanted to know was, has there ever been a time when you've actually gone to set and actually, instead of seeing them as fellow actors, got a bit giddy, got a bit sort of fan moment, geeked out because, you've been in films with, well, I could list them. I mean, you've been with so many people on screen. I mean, if you can name one or two that you thought were just amazing.
Oh man. How much time do you have? I could tell you stories about people that have inspired me, because I love when you meet someone you look up to and say, wow, not only are they talented, they're such a good human.
Mm.
I I'm so embarrassed to say this, but I worked with Paul Schneider on Florida Man, and I joked with my reps after, that was like my best work as an actress to date was being cool and acting like I was just having a conversation, like everything's fine, we're cool, nobody's freaking out internally. So I think honestly, it's, even when internally your 16-year-old self is screaming, just saying, okay, you're here, you're doing the work, this is what you've been prepared to do, and then getting in the car and screaming to your mom, right? It's
Mm.
that's what I choose to do. um, Paul Schneider was lovely, Damon Wayans was just a dream, and I mean, I could go on and on, but I will happily report that I've not met anyone who's not lovely, so
Oh,
that's
good.
good. Yeah, I like when people are kind.
That is good because literally it breaks my heart when you find out that you're such a fan of someone's work and then you find out that off screen they're absolutely awful.
I
Um, you
know.
know, so it's quite refreshing to hear that everyone that you've worked with has been quite nice. So
Yeah.
that is absolutely lovely. So with your industry, there's lots of ups and downs. There's lots of rejection. How do you keep motivated? How do you deal with the ups and downs? Because it's got to be draining at times.
Mm.
How
Brian, I
how do you
love
deal
to
with
joke
it?
that I love to joke that my dating life prepared me for it.
Oh, surely
No, no,
not.
no, no. It's great. It's great. It gives me great material. I did stand up once. So I'm like, they wrote my set for me. Um, no, I think when listen, there are times that you'll wish that something worked out or that you'll have your heart really set on something, but I was just talking with my friend Dan about the fact that not every set is for you, right? And that's someone else's dream coming true, and you don't know how that experience would have been, right?
Mm,
It could be really tricky because that's the interesting thing that no one talks about when you're a kid is that the dream is also work. It will kick
mm,
your butt and it will be challenging. So it's while it's the dream, it's also a challenge. So I think I like to remind myself that no job's the solution, right? That everything is as it should be.
mm.
And remind me of that tomorrow when I'm disappointed about something, okay? It's definitely a journey, and that's why I have nothing figured out. It's all a practice of saying, how can I show up today and be present and do my best work and trust things are going to work out as they should.
And talking about ups, so let's talk about a Jazzman's Blues, because this film, I've got the poster here. I'll put it up on. There we go.
Your set is
Literally,
so fancy. I love
I
this.
know it's nice, isn't it? You know what? This film is such a beautiful, powerful, and I'm not ashamed to say it. So, if there's a film that makes me move, literally, I will cry. I'm an ugly crier. Do you know what I mean? And this film literally had me in tears. And Tyler Perry, if people don't know who Tyler Perry is, they're obviously under a rock, because this man is literally probably one of the busiest mans in the industry. And this film is just astonishing. It really, really is. If you could tell us a bit about the film in your own words and whom you play.
Yes. So in this film, we follow the love story of our two leads here, and they meet when they're quite young, and circumstances tear them apart. And when they're reunited, because of their differences, let's say, I don't want to give away too much, they're not able to be together. They're in different situations in the South in the 1940s. And it's about the power of love and that you cannot extinguish true love, even in the face of hatred and ignorance. And unfortunately, my character is a part of that ignorance. So that was, a part of serving the story, showing up in that character. But it's a beautiful story. This cast is absolutely phenomenal. They poured their hearts and souls into these performances, and I'm so glad to hear that you were moved, because I think that's every artist's dream
It's
to
just,
be a part of stories that move people.
and you mentioned earlier on about how much content there is out there, and I think that some things can get lost because there's so much stuff out there. Everyone needs to watch this movie because it's got so many messages in it, and it leaves you asking yourself so many questions about you know yourself and the world. But I want to talk about the location that it was filmed in. How beautiful was it to film in the location? Was it is it Savannah, Georgia?
It was, yeah.
Oh, how beautiful was that? I mean, what was that like filming there?
It was gorgeous, and Tyler Perry really had a vision of what he wanted it to look like cinematically, and he and his DP were very much on the same page about what story they wanted to tell visually. And it was, I mean, if anyone can visit Savannah, I would highly recommend it. I don't work for their tourism board, but I should. It's just I think every landscape looks like the frame of a movie. It really just it's very quaint. There are gorgeous views, beautiful sunsets. It's a wonderful place to shoot a movie.
I would love to go there one day because it just looks spectacular. It really, really does. And then let's talk about your accent, because your accent, absolutely love it in this movie. How hard is it to get that southern twang? Was it a lot of work to it? Because I am rubbish with with accents. I struggle with English. Never mind, doing a Southern accent. I was in a production of Cabaret when I was at college, and I played
What did you play?
Clifford Bradshaw.
Come on, that's what that I played Sally Bowles.
No way. Oh
Yeah.
my days! Do you know what? I love that. It was like I had to do an American accent from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and
Yeah.
I went into acting because I did that at college and university, and because I had a stutter. So I went into acting to get over that. But I had problems with pronunciations of some words. So, at the end, when Clifford Bradshaw sings, Welcome, bienvenue, welcome, fremde, étranger, I could never get it right. But the accent as well, when it was like, oh, Sally. And it's just an amazing, amazing show to do. It really is. So that's really funny that you played Sally Bowles and I played Clifford Bradshaw. This interview is obviously meant to be. So how did you work on that Southern twang? How much work did you have to put in to get that accent spot on?
Thank you. I have an incredible dialect coach. Her name is Paula, and for anyone who's an actor watching, if you follow Accent Colors on Instagram, she's an incredible coach. She coached me for the audition, then she coached me for the film, and then we were lucky enough to have an amazing dialect coach on set as well. Tyler Perry does things right. He is incredible. So I'm lucky. My mom's from the South, so I grew up with that in my ear. But I love accents, and it's a fun challenge. So thank you.
Oh, it was amazing, and I could listen to that accent all day. It's just fantastic. So talking about Tyler Perry, I mean, a lot of people in the UK know of him because of the wonderful things he did for Harry and Meghan. During the time when they didn't have security. And the story goes that he actually gave them a place to stay and provided them with security at no cost to them, which it just shows the type of man that Tyler is. What was he like to work with? Because he does so much. I think he's got so many shows on the go at the same time. So having him present, directing, and obviously written this film, what was he like to actually be directed by?
So I love that you bring this up because I'm very struck with how present he is and how kind. And when he's with you, communicating with you, he's fully there. When I think, I'm proud of myself for folding my laundry and putting it away, and you're running an empire and you are just fully here and, running the world, yet care about everyone on your sets, care about your actors, are deeply invested. I mean, he's so kind. He's so supportive. He clearly has a massive sense of what he would like to continue contributing both in art and with his philanthropy. So it's incredible to see someone who shows up with his purpose, both in the entertainment world. And then, when we were in the middle of the pandemic, he was showing up at grocery stores and paying for the elderly's groceries as they were shopping, and people just found out about it and started tweeting about it. And it just, I think, he really rises to the occasion in terms of his opportunity to serve and give back. And that's the kind of actor I want to be, use your platform to change the world the way he has.
That is awesome. And if he was in the UK, he'd be Sir Tyler Perry, I am sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
And obviously this is a passion project for him, this film, because, I read that, he's had the script, he's written it over like 25, 27 years ago. So it clearly shows in the film, and the young man that plays Bayou is just absolutely captivating on well, to be honest, they all are, they really are. And the soundtrack is just stunning throughout the whole film. Do you know if the actors actually are the ones singing?
They are.
Are they?
Joshua Boone is phenomenal. And then Soleil Pfeiffer, she doesn't sing in the film, but she's currently starring on Broadway and Almost Famous. I mean, the amount of talent on that set was offensive. It was just, and it just, that entire cast is just phenomenal. So yes, they were singing, and I'm so glad that you appreciated it.
It's just fantastic. I mean, when the film starts, the music, the soundtrack literally gets you straight away, and it's going to be a great movie. But talking about your character Margaret, obviously she's got some quite disturbing views. So how difficult is it? Because obviously you're a lovely person, you know. So how hard is it to actually go into the mindset of someone like that on screen?
You know, I play a lot of, I will say, tricky humans and villains. And I talked to a friend about it when I first started playing characters with views who are very different from my own. And she said, wouldn't you want someone like you on set playing that character? Like who has seen it in the world and can reflect on it and show up and do it with kindness when they say cut, right? To have some kind of awareness around the gravity of saying those words. And, you know, she's like, it's a good thing that it's you. We don't want someone who, you know, so that gives me some peace. And then also, I think you have the hope that as you embody these characters who you try your hardest not to judge, even though you don't agree with their point of view in the world, you get to say, I hope that someone sees something, if they identify with any of the feelings of that villainous character, sees something and is moved and can reflect. And, you know, you never know how you're going to shift someone's soul or change something in their heart. And really, you don't know how that comes about or how, you know, I just think these stories need to be told and people need to see themselves, even if it's ugly. And
that's my the next comment I was going to make, that even though it's quite uncomfortable to see on screen, I think it's very important that it is on screen, you know, because these stories and these situations happened in them times, and it happens today, which is shocking. It really, really is. So to have those on screen, I think it's getting that message across, and it makes you question yourself. And personally, I felt really uncomfortable. I really did. So I take that as a testament on the type of person I am, because the fact that I felt uncomfortable with quite a few bits of that film, you know, I just think it was just amazing how it was done, and hopefully people will watch it and actually question, you know, why, because it doesn't make sense, you know.
Well, it's why we have the cabarets of the world and the Jazzman's blues of the world, right? So we can see humanity reflected, and that it scares us enough to take action so that history doesn't repeat itself,
Of course.
right?
Yeah.
And we're just coming out of a vote in Georgia, so I'm fired up.
Bless you. Do you know what? I haven't got a clue with politics. It goes straight over my head. So this is why I never talk about it, because I haven't got a clue. So how do you go from set, being Margaret, being this person, this horrible person, and then leaving it? Do you leave it on set? Or do you have like sort of a routine in place that when you play certain characters to get out of that, you know, mindset?
You know, I think for actors, self-care is so important. And that can be, you know, I coach actors as well. And I'll say, after we work on a heavy scene, I'll say, go watch some comedy now. Like, this is the time to go watch something funny, to, you know, really take care of yourself and do something that helps you pull out of that space. Because if you want to tell something truthfully, you need to go there, and our bodies don't know the difference. And I'll be in something and I'll get a migraine because it puts you through it, you know? So it's just giving yourself after that the space to say, okay, well, I acknowledge that I went there if my body is physically having a reaction to this. And also, you know, watch comedy and rest and take care of yourself like anything else, right? Self-care.
Definitely. And then talking about coaching, because that was quite a good segue actually, because that was my next question. So when you're not, starring on screen, you're actually coaching, people that are starting out in the industry, which is fantastic. And obviously, talking about the rejection side is a common part of the industry. But would you say, building actors' self-esteem is also key, with this coaching? I mean, if you could talk a bit about what you do with the coaching and what it entails.
I think 99% of my job is reminding people that they're doing their best at any given moment, and that it's about clocking your growth and your evolution as an artist and a person, and that we can't be so short-sighted to think we need that next job.
Mm.
So it's very much about mindset. It's very much about perspective and focusing on honoring yourself as an artist, and not doing your auditions for someone else, but rather saying, okay, this is what I bring to the table. This is my role for this amount of time. At least I'm going to give it my all and enjoy it and have as much fun as possible. So, you know, myself included, human beings can be so tough on themselves, and it is already a challenging business. So flipping the perspective to say, wait a minute, why are you beating yourself up about this? I encourage people to write down their wins, and I would encourage anyone, even someone who is not in this industry, to write down wins. Because we sometimes with we can really go to the negative quickly and have that bias to say, like, well, what do I need to be better at? And that's great. Growth is fantastic, but acknowledging and incorporating and integrating those wins, I think, is so important. So it's not. I'm never encouraging someone to say everything's great and it's fine and I'm so happy and I'm exactly where I want to be right now. It's not anything like that, but really saying, okay, how can I appreciate where I am? What's coming to fruition that I've worked hard for that I can celebrate and make sure I enjoy?
I mean, would you say the industry is getting better or worse in the way of, I mean, the reason why I didn't pursue it further was because, I found that it was very much, I don't know, they weren't looking at necessarily the talent, they were looking at literally the way you looked. So I used to go to auditions, and I'd be waiting there, and then the casting director would come down and literally point and just go, you, and they could be the worst actors in the world. I mean, do you see that sort of behavior? And would you say the industry is getting better in fair representation? Because these new starters, you want to build them up to succeed and give them the tools to succeed. But do you think the industry is better or worse? If you know what I mean.
I love the question. You and I were meant to have this conversation today. So I took a break from the industry for a moment for that reason, because I was encouraged to look a certain way, to fit into a certain archetype that had everything to do with how I looked. And I needed to take a break and say, okay, I've got to get back to why I do this from a place of, heart and soul, rather than trying to prescribe to what everyone else is telling me I should look like and should do, and what, the career they want me to have. So I will say, I believe the industry is getting better about representation, and you will find evidence for what you're looking for, right? So if I am going to continue to say, well, they don't want me because I look like this or don't look like this, and that's why I didn't book the role, I'll find evidence in the world to say, like, that's why it's not working out. I had to get to a place where I wasn't focused on that, and trust that if I continued to focus on the work, not every role would be for me, but the right ones would. So I think it's two parts. I think the industry is evolving. We're seeing more people represented. We are seeing, more diversity, more body types, and there's a long way to go, of course. But I think that, and then committing to saying, okay, when I focus on the work and persevere, things will fall into place. And it's it's a long.
I mean, for me, my two little girls, knowing that they're growing up in this world, it's great to see women finally getting, leading parts, and seeing them on screen which gives them something to look up to. But also, what scares me as a dad is that, as you said, that the industry would want you to look a certain way and be a certain way. And to these young girls out there, literally, I've already faced with my 9-year-old, her being quite self-conscious. And at 9, when I was 9, we didn't hear of that. And now with social media, I don't think in 10 years' time we will be able to recognise anyone walking down the street because they use too many filters. Literally, you don't recognise anyone. So hopefully that will change. And I think the key is definitely building self-esteem, self-worth with the kids. But I wanted to touch on a few of your projects that you've also done, which I've seen this and I can't find it anywhere. Is it being released yet? Because I've seen the trailer. I've watched the trailer a couple of times, and it looks amazing. I mean, is this released? Am I just looking in the wrong places? I mean,
I love that you brought up Courtney Gets Possessed. Oh, thank you. They are currently looking for distribution. There's an incredible production company in Atlanta run by Madison Hatfield and Jonathan Mitchell called Peach Jam Productions, and they created this film, and we had a screening in Atlanta, and they're currently seeking distribution for this film. So it was I love everyone in this project, and it was such a dream to be a part of. I got to get possessed by Jonathan Pulowski there, the devil, fictional devil. He is a wonderful human being. And it was just everyone in that cast and in that crew is phenomenal. So it was a great experience. But hopefully we will have that streaming somewhere soon.
So we need to get it out on social media. That everyone needs to see this movie. Let's get it out because it's shocking when you hear that like this distribution. Again, there's so much content out there. Let's get it out there streaming. And then I wanted to add on Florida Man, because again, I mean, do we know when that's going to be released?
Stay tuned. Hopefully soon. Stay tuned. I will let you know when we have a date, but it's coming.
Again, the cast is phenomenal. Jason Bateman, who for me, Teen Wolf 2, for me as a kid, absolutely love him. So I can't wait for that to be released as well. So I've got to give a mention out to your dogs, because I've got to ask. I've got a picture here. There you go. How gorgeous are they? So if you could tell us your dogs' names, because this is the thing that I'm going to ask you a question about. So what are your dogs' names?
So the one here, Vixen, is the one who is kind of an auburn color, and then we've got Beverly Hills Cop 2, who goes by Beverly. She's just Beverly Hills Cop 2, and she's a little bit naughty, and they're looking at me right now like, why are we being summoned? But Lifeline Animal Shelter in Atlanta named them, and I'm like, you know what? Whoever thought Beverly Hills Cop 2 would be a good name for a dog was absolutely right. It makes me laugh every time I say it.
So I'm glad you've shortened it to Beverly, because if they're in the park and you're shouting, Beverly Hills Cop 2, come here, things are going to look, at least they chose that film and not something else like Texas Chainsaw or something else, because then you would get funny looks. So I've got to give him a shout out, because I am such an animal lover. Unfortunately, I've got 4 cats. Literally.
Wow.
Yeah, I've even got a mug that I got bought by the kids that says Cat Dad. Literally, I am outnumbered in this house, but dogs are secretly my favorite. They really are.
No.
Yeah. So
Don't
I want
tell the girls. That's a very cute mug they got you. They were proud of that.
It is very, very cute. And I just wanted to also quickly touch on a project that you're involved with. And you know, I read up about this project, and I just think it's wonderful. The name of it as well, Heart Gallery, which I just think's lovely. It really, really is. If you could tell us a bit about what Art Gallery is, and
Yes.
what you do with them.
Yes. So I was doing some theater in Florida, and I saw a beautiful display of portraits of children that were just absolutely captivating and beautiful and showcased their personality. And the director of the theater I was working with, Carla Hartley, said, this is actually Heart Gallery. Wait till you see their presentation. And they did a presentation at the theater where I was working, showcasing children in foster care who are, maybe have special needs, maybe more difficult to place. And they partner with photographers to take these beautiful portraits and really showcase the kids' personality and help them find their forever home. So when I was doing some regional theater in Florida, I was partnering with them, helping them fundraise, did some work with them at their annual fundraiser, and I became friends with them. And I just said, the dream is to have a platform where I can hopefully make a difference, and just by spreading awareness about incredible organizations like Heart Gallery. So, you can become a birthday buddy for a kid in Heart Gallery. Like, one of my favorite things to do is buy a little birthday present and then sponsor a birthday for a child in Heart Gallery. You can donate around the holidays when they go back to school, and they help improve their quality of life while in foster care and help them find their forever homes.
And that is such a lovely organisation. And the one thing that saddens me at Christmas is that when you see parents, and rightly so, they should, treat their kids, but when you see presents piled up and there's hundreds of presents there, and you think to yourself, surely they don't need that many presents, and there's kids out there that would love a present. So maybe this year people should stop and think, that one present for their child, out of the 100 or whatever, they should donate or sponsor at Art Gallery. I think that would be a great idea. But before we bid farewell, because this has been a lovely chat, the last question is, if your life was a movie, Lauren, what title would it have and why?
I'm going to go with my first thought, which was she did her best. And it would be a comedy. Because I find joy and levity in comedy, because I have, we talked about trials and tribulations, and the thing that has gotten me through it all is having a sense of humor about it. So I would love for Kate McKinnon to play me if she's available. And it would be, she did her best. And it would just be a series of disasters that we find light and humor and growth in. So let's make this movie, Brian.
Do you know what? We can make it happen, I am sure. But Lauren, you've been a great guest. It's been a great honour to have you on. Everyone needs to see A Jazzman Blues. It's just a great movie. From your personal thoughts, what message do you think that movie gives out to the viewers?
That love endures and cannot be extinguished, and that ultimately we are all responsible for how we show up in the world and how we treat others, and that what we were saying before, it's important that history doesn't repeat itself. So we have to take a look at the realities of what humanity can do.
And in the words of one of my idols, Christopher Reeve, he used to say, leave the world a better place than you found it.
Yes.
Which
yes.
I just think is fantastic. And he was a fellow horse rider as well, like yourself. Out of curiosity, do you prefer English riding to Western?
Oh, I competed in hunter jumper, so I did English, but I would love to do a Western, so I do both. I love English, but it's just a different, it's very different. It's So I would just say I would love to spend more time doing Westerns because English, like you can go down a rabbit hole of starting to compete again. That's why I'm like, oh, I love it so much. I almost can't even open that door because it's all consuming. It's really interesting. It was my life for a long time.
And do you horse ride now? Do you?
I do, but it's such an event. That's the thing is it will take an entire day, and it's an interesting thing as an actor. You're kind of you have to make yourself available because things will come up. And they always say the fastest way to book a job is to book a vacation. It's like the fastest way to have something come up is to be like, oh, I'm on a farm today. I can't, you know? So
There you
it's
go.
interesting.
That
Yeah,
is the plan. Just plan loads of vacations, and
yes,
then
loads of
just
vacations
yeah,
and riding horses.
brilliant. Lauren, you've been a great guest. Keep safe
Oh,
and
thank
stay
you.
super. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Brian.